Detective Mark Janney with the Cold Case Unit spent more than 100 hours interrogating the man he calls a monster.
Imagine a world where someone vanishes without a trace, and decades later, the mystery still looms large, unanswered. Some missing persons cases remain cold for years, leaving families in despair and the public haunted by unsolved questions. But what happens when the truth finally comes to light after years of silence? These chilling true crime stories are a testament to the power of persistence and the surprising breakthroughs that can come after years of waiting. In this journey, we'll uncover the mysteries behind some of the most perplexing disappearances that took decades to solve. The disappearance of Tara Calico. Tara Calico, a 19-year-old college student from New Mexico, disappeared in 1988 while riding her bike near her home. Tara was an avid cyclist and had been out on a typical morning ride when she vanished without a trace. Despite immediate efforts by law enforcement and an extensive search, no signs of Tara were found, and the case went cold. Over the years, numerous tips and possible sightings surfaced, but they never led to solid evidence. Tara's mother, unable to accept the loss, continued to search for her daughter, even after authorities had given up. The case took an unexpected turn in 2008, when a photograph surfaced showing a woman and a child in a grocery store parking lot in Florida. The woman in the photo resembled Tara, and the child appeared to be in distress. This photo reignited the case and brought new hope to Tara's family and investigators. While the identity of the woman and child in the photo was never confirmed as Tara, it led to renewed efforts to solve the case. Despite the long years of uncertainty, the discovery of this photo sparked new questions, leaving Tara's disappearance as a tragic reminder of how sometimes the truth can stay hidden for decades. The long search for the Beaumont children. In 1966, 3 siblings, Jane, 9, Arna, 7, and Grant Beaumont, 4, disappeared from Glenelg Beach in South Australia while on an outing. The children were last seen playing near the water, but when their mother returned to the beach to check on them, they had vanished without a trace. Despite an immediate and widespread search, no clues were found, and the case quickly went cold. Over the years, investigators speculated on several theories, including abduction by a stranger, but no solid evidence surfaced to explain their disappearance. Their parents, devastated and desperate for answers, remained hopeful but never received closure. In the early 2000s, advancements in forensic technology, along with new interviews and re-examinations of old evidence, led to a renewed investigation into the case. Theories resurfaced, and a few new suspects emerged, but the mystery remained unsolved. Despite attempts to link the case to other missing children or to individuals with past criminal activity, investigators were still unable to definitively solve the Beaumont children's disappearance. Their case remains one of Australia's most infamous unsolved mysteries, a haunting reminder of how some tragedies leave lasting scars on families, even decades after the event. The mystery of the Sodder children. On Christmas Eve, 1945, 5 children from the Sodder family, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, disappeared after a fire destroyed their home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. While the parents and 4 other children managed to escape the blaze, there were no signs of the 5 missing children, and their bodies were never recovered from the burned-out house. The fire department reported that the house had burned down so completely that it was impossible to find any remains. This led to suspicions that the children had been kidnapped before the fire started, but the authorities dismissed this theory, citing the lack of any visible evidence of foul play. Over the years, new clues suggested that the Sodder children might still be alive. In the 1950s, a photo surfaced showing a group of children that appeared to resemble the missing Sodder children, raising the possibility that they had been taken and were still living somewhere. Despite the years of investigation and leads, the case remained unresolved. In the 1960s, further scrutiny into the original investigation revealed potential mishandling of evidence and unusual actions by the fire department. The case of the Sodder children has become one of America's most enduring mysteries, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a grieving family still searching for closure. The case of the Jamison family. In 2009, Bobby, Sherilyn, and their daughter Madison Jamison disappeared while on a trip to look at a remote piece of land in the rural mountains of Oklahoma. The family's truck was found abandoned on a dirt road with all of their belongings inside, including their dog. There was no sign of forced entry or struggle, and no clues to indicate what had happened to them. Despite an immediate search, no evidence was found, and the case went cold for several years. The eerie circumstances surrounding their disappearance raised many questions, especially given that the family appeared to have no clear reason for leaving so abruptly. In 2013, the remains of the Jamison family were discovered in a remote part of the woods, several miles away from where their truck had been found. The bodies showed no signs of trauma, and the cause of death remained unclear. Investigators were left puzzled, with theories ranging from accidental death due to exposure to possible foul play. Some even speculated that the family had been involved in something illegal or dangerous, as they had been searching for land in a known area for methamphetamine production. Despite the discovery, the exact circumstances of the Jamison family's death remain shrouded in mystery, leaving their case one of the most perplexing missing persons cases in recent history. The abduction of Stephen Stainer. In 1972, 7-year-old Stephen Stainer was abducted in Merced, California, by a man named Kenneth Parnell. Parnell, who had a history of mental illness and criminal behavior, held Stephen captive for 7 years in a remote cabin. During this time, Stephen was subjected to physical and emotional abuse, and Parnell even tried to force him into a new identity. Stephen's family, devastated by his disappearance, never gave up hope, despite the case going cold for years. Over time, Stephen's abductee status remained in the public consciousness, but there were no substantial leads to his whereabouts. In 1980, Stephen managed to escape with another captive, a young boy named Timothy White, who had been abducted by Parnell years later. They found their way to a police station, where Stephen was finally reunited with his family. The discovery of Stephen's whereabouts led to the arrest of Kenneth Parnell, who was later convicted for his role in the kidnapping. While the family was overjoyed by Stephen's return, his time in captivity left lasting scars. His story became a beacon of hope for other missing children and a chilling reminder of how one man's twisted obsession could change the course of many lives. The mystery of the Hinterkaifeck murders. The Hinterkaifeck murders, which took place in 1922 in a remote farmhouse in Germany, remain one of the most unsettling unsolved cases in criminal history. The Gruber family, Andreas, his wife, Kazilia, their daughter Victoria, and 2 grandchildren, were found brutally murdered on their farm, yet there were no witnesses and no immediate suspects. The case grew even more eerie when it was discovered that the family had been living with the murderer for days, as tracks in the snow indicated that someone had been entering and leaving the house without anyone noticing. Despite multiple theories and suspects over the years, no conclusive evidence has ever been found to explain who committed the murders. Over the decades, numerous theories have emerged, with some suggesting a family member might have been involved, while others point to a mysterious stranger or even a worker from the farm. Forensic evidence was limited at the time, and many experts believe that the original investigation may have been mishandled, further complicating the search for the truth. In recent years, modern forensic tools have been applied to the case, yet the mystery persists. The Hinterkaifeck murders continue to capture public interest due to their bizarre and chilling nature, leaving the question of who was responsible, and why, still unanswered after more than a century. As we reflect on these haunting cases, it's clear that some mysteries are destined to linger, leaving unanswered questions that continue to captivate the public's imagination. Whether it's the chilling disappearance of the Beaumont children or the eerie circumstances surrounding the Hinterkaifeck murders, these stories remind us of the unpredictable and often unsettling nature of life. Though time has passed, the search for answers persists, and for the families involved, hope never truly fades. If these unsolved mysteries intrigued you, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories that keep the questions alive long after the cases themselves have gone cold.